Well, good day, everyone, and welcome to Club Grubbery on this Monday, the 10th of March. And a bit of an update coming your way. We've been off the air for a few days, Johnny.
Oh, we have, Woody, but the phone doesn't stop. The work never stops. So-
Indeed, it doesn't. And I've just been through Cyclone Alfred up here in northern New South Wales, and we had about 350 mil of rain where we live, which has filled everything up. Everything's soaking. And interesting to note that Cyclone Alfred was actually due to be designated Cyclone Anthony, but because of Albanese, it was changed to Cyclone Alfred. So I'm told. So I'm told. Interesting. I don't know why. I mean, I think if you're running for an election, it'd be nice to be seen as, well, maybe you didn't want to be thought of as a bag of wind, John.
A bag of wind that loses its wind.
Yeah, that's right. And it hangs around for weeks and weeks. I mean, that thing just hung around and hung around. It was like, I think it just hovered within a 30-kilometre radius of where it came near the coast. And look,
Oh,
it was an incredible event. And
there
look,
was funny things happening, Hoodie. I saw a meme online that said that the cyclone was waiting offshore because they were waiting for Albo to welcome it to country.
yeah, I saw that too. How good. Look, some people are so quick to come off the mark, aren't they? I mean, there's been some funny comments about it. I saw one photo that showed an outdoor garden table with four chairs around it. One chair was blown over, and the meme says, "We will get through this together. We have the courage. We can rebuild." When- But look, having said that, one guy's drowned very
Mm.
tragically down in Dorrigo, and yeah, that was dreadful. He was just almost home, and he was hanging onto a tree for half an hour, and his mate was trying to get help for him, and he couldn't hang on any longer, and look, there's a lot of damage being done. I mean, the Gold Coast beaches are virtually gone.
Yeah.
But before everyone gets their knickers in a twist about that, John, that happened in 1967 too. And I was on the Gold Coast when the 74 floods happened. And, I was staying with my folks then who had a canal front home on the Gold Coast. And I remember my dad and I sitting on the kitchen bench tops at midnight, listening to the local radio station go off the air and watching a school of mullets swim through the kitchen.
Wow.
These events have been going on all the time, and cyclones happen, especially this time of the year, and they occasionally come down this far south. So, it's like when they said that Europe's just had the hottest summer on record for the last 80 years, but it was some 2 degrees hotter 80 years ago.
Mm.
So, I mean, people get carried away with all this climate change stuff and everything else. But anyhow, on more matters, we're going to discuss a few things tonight, Johnny. Firstly, I want to go through the interview list that we've got lined up for this week. We've got a pretty heavy interview list this week. There's a young political candidate named Jordan Ditloff, and I think he's a libertarian candidate, and he's going to be running in the federal election. And but this guy's got a really interesting backstory. He hasn't had the perfect life. He's been through some hard times. He's been in prison, I believe. And but he's confessed all this stuff and he's got his life around. And I'm really interested, not so much in what he's got to do with politics, but the way that he's turned his life around, because that stuff really floats my boat. Because the reason, John, that we haven't done any shows this last week is Michelle and I have hosted a dozen or so people from Hoody's Heroes for the week at our property, and they've been doing the 12-step recovery road training that we run here. And they're the second batch of Hoody's Heroes leaders to come through the training, and it was amazing. So, we Michelle and I have been interested in healing and restoring broken lives for the last almost 2 decades. And this is all part of what we're doing. So, yeah, we've been preoccupied with that group, but it was well worth doing. We also have, people are saying what's happening with infected bloods and the tainted bloods issue. We have tracked down, thanks to Suzanne Burns, our fantastic, program administrator. She has tracked down Des Collins, who is, I believe, a lawyer from the UK, who's been working on the case over there and continues to work on what happened with tainted blood supplies, especially as it is applied to haemophiliacs, John. So
Mm.
that'll be a great interview.
Yeah, that will be, and I think that'll bring a lot of interest to the case again, which is what we're trying to get some media interested in it. Bureaucrats, politicians, get them to open up in relation to what went on there, so we can get to the bottom of it all.
Indeed, and that's what we're going to keep doing. We're going to keep plugging away at this issue, like all the other issues that we're on board with, mainly to do with medical tyranny.
Mm.
And batten down the hatches, everyone. A lot of you have been asking for this one for a while. Dr. Jack Cruz from El Salvador, probably sitting by his pool with no shirt on because he's an exponent of getting all the best you can from the sun. And we're going to have a panel with Dr. Jack Cruz, who is incredible mind. John, this I've been looking at a lot of his stuff lately. This guy's got a mind like a steel trap, and he is all over everything that's going on, and his evidence is compelling. But we're also joined on that panel discussion with our very own Professor Anne Brighthope, and also Dr. Paul Oosterhouse, who's a big fan of Dr. Jack Cruz, and so that'll be an incredible panel. I think it may well go for 2 hours, that one, John. And
Yeah.
that we're recording that Friday, so that'll probably go up the following week.
Yep.
And SBS Insights.
Oh, jeez. How did you feel after watching that, Hoodie?
Um, Look, I get it. I get the fact that they only have a 53-minute time slot.
Mm.
And I get that they're trying to cover a lot of issues in the one program, which is I thought was a big mistake.
Yeah.
I thought the abortion issue could have stood a program on its own. And how good is Dr. Jo Howe? She was amazing. Little firebrand, and she conducted herself very well. She was edited to Billio. She
Wow.
was edited to Billio, as was I. Um, so we recorded for 2 hours, and they put 53 minutes to air. In fairness to them, there was one guy who had a segment of his own, and he was edited out completely. And I feel they got a small essence of what I was trying to get across to that group. And so I think from that end, and the fact that the lawyer Justin Sibley was there, and also we had that wonderful lady, the photographer, who had suffered a vaccine injury. And it seems like they were pitting us against, and Dr. Joe Howe, they were
Mm.
pitting us against the New South Wales head of the College of General Practitioners, John. That lady is a disgrace.
Mm.
As a doctor and as a human being, she smirked through some of the horrible comments that were being made about aborting fetuses. And Dr. Joe Howe did a wonderful expose on how she saw the program. She made the comment that vaccines save millions of lives and they're totally safe and effective, which it was just mind-boggling, absolutely mind-boggling. And there was another lady there that had a tracheotomy, and she was speaking by holding her throat. Now, as much as I, respect her right to say whatever she says, I don't know why she was there because she had no real expertise, and she was claiming that she had this tracheotomy after she'd had 5 jabs, and she said that people who hadn't been vaccinated were effectively selfish and inconsiderate,
Mm.
which she's got a right to say. I mean, she does have a right to say that, but I don't know why she was there. And she got an awful lot of airtime. And I spoke to her after the event, and she basically what she said to me was, you know, you really need to consider what you're saying to people because you're probably costing a lot of lives. And I said, look, have you seen all the interviews we've done? And she said, no. And I said, do you realize that we've interviewed several hundred, and a lot of those people are vaccine injured victims, and also doctors and scientists of world renown who are on the other side of the narrative. And she said, and I said, they're all begging the government to stop, even Robert Clancy. She said, who's Robert Clancy? She didn't know who he was. And I said, well, he's one of Australia's top scientists, and he's begging the government to stop vaccinating people. she said, "Oh, I don't believe that for 1 minute." She said, "I don't believe that." She said, "My son's a GP, and he says, I should have all the vaccines." And here she is in a wheelchair and speaking with a trachea. And I went to shake her hands and give her a hug before I left, and she pulled away and she said, "No, I don't want to touch you." And I thought, okay, well, fair enough. I felt for her, but I don't know why there was such an emphasis on her. Anyhow,
Mm.
back to the program. I felt probably more than anyone on that program, like every time they asked me to answer a question, I was shut down before I finished. That'll do. That's enough. We don't need any more than that. Now, in some cases, I gave a 2 or 3 minute answer. Other guests were given 5 or 6 minutes, and they were allowed to finish their answer. I talked about Qantas and how they weren't acting responsibly in forcing their crews to be vaccinated. I talked about a certain pilot who you and I know, John, who's going through the courts at the moment, and how badly he's been treated by Qantas. None of that went to air. I After the lady doctor from the College of General Practitioners, I'll work out her name later on, but she was so insignificant, truly. Um,
Rebecca, someone.
yeah, I'll look it up. But um, when made the comments she made, I made several responses to questions referring to how let down a lot of GPs have been by the college and by APRA and all the others. None of that got to air. So I was challenging her as best I could. And so at the end of the day, what do you think? Do you think it was reasonably balanced around the vaccine issue?
Well, look, Hoodie, I think as mainstream media goes, I think it wasn't as biased as I think it could have been. I think it was okay. It's not something that I'd be celebrating as a win. I'd say that it was all right. I thought it was significant that they gave the last moment for that poor lady with the vaccine injury to basically give the shot. Yeah, I thought that was significant in what had happened.
Yeah,
I felt that Australia and particularly people who understand what's going on would have been sitting there throwing things at the TV when that lady with the tracheostomy was on, saying, "Well, have you ever thought about the possibility that it's the vaccines that have caused your injury, not the COVID?" I mean, it especially rung home to me because I mean, Michael interviewed a nurse who we've spoken to off air as well, who was in her 30s at a regional New South Wales hospital and ended up with a tracheostomy permanently as a result of the vaccines. Now, there is no denial of what's happened to her. I mean, she was vaccinated at work in the emergency department on shift.
yeah.
Uh, and she's battling out in the courts as we speak, from what I understand. So, I mean, it just, you have to say to yourself, well, she's got one side of the narrative. She's got the government side. Her son's a GP. I mean, I think that sort of tells you a lot. But
Well,
yeah, I think a lot of people would have been frustrated, Hoodie. But on balance, I think it could have been worse. I'm probably looking at it from a glass half full rather than.
yeah, I had a feeling from talking to the crew that they were more than empathetic to what we were saying, and I won't mention names of the crew, but I had a couple of pre-record chats with a couple of the guys there, and they were very much in tune with what we were saying, and I think the way it was edited really reflects the fact that they're aware that something's going on, and from that perspective, I've got nothing against SBS or the crew of that program. And I think at the end of the day, it was not too bad. Now, interestingly, when I spoke to the lady who had the tracheostomy, um, I said to her, "How do you account for the 17% increase in mortality?" And she said, "Oh, that's easy. People are living longer these days, so more of them are dying." Um, and I just stood there bewildered. I mean, I couldn't make sense of that answer. And anyhow, look, as I said, she's entitled to her opinion, and we're going to have a panel discussion about that, John, because Justin Sibley, the lawyer who was there talking about, he was the guy who got Queensland Police and who was the other organisation in Queensland?
And the paramedics, I think,
Well,
was it?
yeah, that's right. He got that judgment through the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
A wonderful guy. We had a great chat afterwards. Now he's coming on the program. We're going to interview him this week. Also with him will be once again Professor Ian Brighthope and our very own Dr. Philip Altman. So, and we're going to dissect the program and have a good look at and what they thought of, especially the response from that GP.
Mm.
That was atrocious. I mean, she had no idea. The lights were on, but nobody was home, John. She was asked a couple of questions. I think once she just sat there dumb for a minute and said, I don't know. And
Well, I
so,
think that was around the testing of vaccines. She didn't even know how long usually they tested them for. 10 years, I think, is the.
right, that's right. That's right. So, look, it's getting it out there. Justin Sibley said to me, I could see that, several people in the audience were woken up by the comments we were making. And I'm sure there'll be people out there, John, who'll be saying, yeah, that probably makes a bit of sense to me. All we can do is leave it where it lies, and see what happens. So, anyway, some great interviews. Jordan Ditloff, Des Collins, the lawyer from the UK about infected bloods, Dr. Jack Cruz with Paul Easterhouse, and Philip Altman, and sorry, not Philip Altman, Ian Brighthope, and Justin Sibley, the lawyer from Queensland, with Ian Brighthope and Philip Altman. So that should be good discussing SBS Insights.
Definitely.
John, the WA election, what on earth?
Yeah, it's a shocker. Well, look, I suppose I don't know how you view it, Hoodie, but look, there was a swing away from Labor, but ultimately, they still won handsomely.
Have we had any results from the independents?
Not that I've heard. I think there was I think there was around a 10% swing apparently to independents and the Liberal Party in both houses, but as to whether that ends up being seats, I'm not sure. It's probably too tight to tell at the moment, but
Once again, it
yeah,
speaks to the lack of strength of our oppositions around the country, doesn't it?
speaks volumes to it. The West should have been, crying out for change. Just obviously, there's no real leadership there.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So we wait with bated breath. One Nation, how did they perform?
I'm not sure. I think it was more a case of it going to a number of different independent candidates. I don't think there was any one particular standout from what I could tell. But I suppose we'll know in a week or two.
Yeah, a lot of stuff being said about One Nation at the moment, and we've got a lot of time for Senator Malcolm Roberts. We really do, and but a lot of people disenchanted and disenfranchised with One Nation at the present time. So very interesting times as we approach what could be an April election federally, John.
Yeah. Well, I think April's out of the question now, Hoodie. I think it can only be May.
Hmm.
And the way it's looking, I think it's more likely to be late. Jared Rennick was talking about this in a post. Uh, so yeah, I'd be surprised if it's not mid to late May.
Yeah, exactly. Other things you want to discuss tonight, John? I've got a nice lengthy update from Shelley Probert, Kianna's mum, about the situation that she's in up in Cairns. I'll be reading through some of that. And also following on from that, I got an email from one of our listeners describing a similar set of circumstances about second opinions that is absolutely mind-boggling. And I might just read that out.
Yeah.
Um, let me see here. Thank you for all that you do. You bring truth into the light. We watched your interview last night with the panel discussion, Kianna's disgusting situation, and felt compelled to relay to you our own experience. A close family member was admitted to hospital with excruciating pain in his hip. Tests revealed he was riddled with leukemia. The year before, he found a lump in his neck and was diagnosed with lymphoma, but was given the all clear after 6 months of treatment, in inverted commas. Doctors determined that he needed urgent surgery to insert an Omea device under his scalp to aid with injection of chemo into his brain. They deemed that the time was of the essence and that he would need to be transported to Brisbane that afternoon to get this time-sensitive surgery. Family members wanted to get a second opinion, but the doctors talked them out of that, as there was no time to be wasted on a second opinion. I want you to hang on to that term, no time, the urgency. This was critical. That night, he was transported to Brisbane and prepped for surgery the following day. For 9 days, he was prepped each morning, and for 9 days, he never made it to have his brain surgery. 9 days being prepped every day, and this was urgent. Given that he was supposed to be having surgery, he was basically starved each day and only given a light sandwich of an evening. Once they knew he would not be going into theatre for that day. 3 times we had to call Ryan's rule. It was only when we told the hospital that we had contacted Senator Rennick, not sure this was the reason though, did he finally go into surgery. So much for this. This is urgent and timing is of the essence, and there is no time for a second opinion. 9 days. Turns out following the brain surgery, the Omea had been placed incorrectly, and he had to go back into surgery again the next day to correct the mistake. It turned out that this procedure was not used as it did not work properly anyway. Whilst recovering from the brain surgery, he got out of bed several times and in the process fell over as there was no round-the-clock care given. 5 weeks later, he returned to our local hospital. Whilst there, he was admitted to the ICU and spent over a week there, also managing to get out of bed and fall over. Then was left on his own for days, again falling over in the bathroom more than once. Whilst individual nurses were lovely, the staff shortages make hospital stays a nightmare. Within 4 months, we lost our loved one. His journey during that 4 months of being in hospital has traumatised us all. What are your comments, John?
Well, what can you say, Hoodie? I mean, they've just on the face of it, that's a disgrace. How that isn't referred to APRA, I don't know. It's incompetence. Incompetence at at the level of management that are allowing that to go on. I mean, how do you not have time for a second opinion, but you delay surgery 9 days? It beggars belief.
And then the surgery you do is botched up and you pull it out and you say, well, it doesn't really work anyway.
And at the end of the day, Hoodie, they've robbed him of 4 months.
And he died. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Getting on to Kianna, I've got a written update that I'll better read out. I know for a fact that Kianna's had at least one visit with her kids, which was great. Great photographs. They had a ball. Looking through what's happened with this whole saga going on up there, and it is still ongoing. We know that Professor Ian Brighthope wrote an amazing letter to various health bureaucrats and politicians in Queensland in particular. Incredible letter. It was amazing in support of these kids and Kianna. And also Russell Broadbent drafted a very persistent and persuasive letter to attorneys general in Queensland and I think in federal as well. So I just want to read a media statement that Kianna has put out. Court acknowledges that the children should be home, yet child safety continues its overreach. On February 11, 2025, court proceedings were adjourned for a family group conference, with a hearing scheduled for March 7, 2025, which is today, no, just 3 days ago, should no agreement be reached. In a significant development, the magistrate, the, the Department of Child Protection and Litigation lawyer, and the children's separate representative lawyer all agreed that both children should be returned to their mother, Kianna Probert. They agreed to that in the hearing. Despite this, Child Safety is refusing to return Abel, that's the younger one, who's not ill at the moment, claiming it would be unfair to Jax. Meanwhile, Jax remains under their control, even though Kianna has fully complied with every requirement they have set and was already ensuring Jax received the care they claim to be concerned about. Adding to the injustice, authorities are now seemingly suggesting and pressuring Kianna to introduce chemotherapy agents that were previously removed from Jax's treatment plan, despite the fact that his oncologist had no objection to their removal at the time. This is based on an attached letter referring to chemotherapy for Jax. Child Safety is attempting to override Kianna's legal right to make medical decisions for her child, effectively treating her as if she were incapable of independent thought or parental responsibility. Even more disturbing is that the treatment is thought to be part of a trial protocol, not 100% confirmed yet, and comes from an oncologist currently under investigation by APRA. Can you believe that? Instead of prioritising Jax's well-being, they are enforcing a controversial treatment plan with questionable motives. So what's APRA doing with this guy? Where's that going? They have enrolled the children into school when Kianna didn't consent, and neither did Jax's father. Abel started his first day of prep without his mother. Kianna had been homeschooling, even though the magistrate said it wasn't a problem to homeschool. That was fine. At present, contact between the children and their mother remains severely restricted, limited to just 1 hour of supervised visitation per week and 3 FaceTime calls per week for the next 3 weeks. This is a blatant violation of fundamental human rights and contradicts the very position taken by the court and legal representatives that the children should be returned home. This case should have been thrown out from the beginning, as it was built on false allegations and procedural misconduct designed to justify intervention. The systematic failures and legal abuses in the case are beyond comprehension. International intervention is underway. Given the serious human rights violations occurring in this case, we are now filing in response. We will be filing complaints with the Human Rights Commission, the Crime and Corruption Commission, Queensland Ombudsman, and pursuing a judicial review of the case and an injunction, the United Nations for breaching of the Convention of Rights on Rights of the Child. And that's from Kianna. So, look, it continues, John. It continues, and all she wanted was a second opinion. That's all she wanted was a second opinion. So why is it that everyone in the proceedings can agree that the children should be with their mother, but despite all those recommendations, Child Safety still insists? Now those kids aren't in a foster home as such. They're in like a care facility. They're not in a home environment at all.
How do they outweigh a magistrate?
I mean, it beggars belief. It absolutely beggars belief. As you often been heard to say, mate.
You just couldn't make this stuff up, could you?
You couldn't make this stuff up. So there we have the latest update on Kianna and Jackson Abel, and we'll be in touch with her over the next couple of days to find out what happened at the court hearing 3 days ago. And we take it from there. So what else can we talk about, John, before we go?
Well, just quickly, I noticed that there's been a few instances where I've seen the witness statement put up online with an event number from the police, which is encouraging. So let's just hope that that's getting some traction. I think that extended um, movie about Ingy should be out shortly, is it? It can't be far off. So
Yep.
documentary. We'll
Yep.
follow up on that. But yeah, that's certainly one to keep sharing. That's a very powerful story, that one on Ingy that we brought to you a little while ago.
Yeah, and we're hoping to interview Scott, Ingy's partner, very soon to get his take on it as well, because yeah, he's as much a victim as she is,
Mm.
many other ways, especially emotionally. So yeah, interesting times ahead.
Yeah, and we're working in the background. We can't divulge too much at this stage, but we're working in the background on a case involving a former federal police officer that was sacked, and possible links to existing or serving politicians from Pfizer. Uh, some who may or may not be on the payroll
What
for
could
their
possibly go wrong?
campaigns and whatever else.
What could possibly go wrong? So we've got people in the know looking into that at the moment.
100%. Mm.
Can you say, John? What can you say?
Well, it's mad.
Well, it is crazy. These are crazy times to all those people in Queensland and New South Wales affected by the flooding and this massive rain depression now. And I'm looking out the window, it is breaking up a little. We haven't had that much rain today, but boy, it's been heavy. Some areas getting 700, 800, 900 mil. It's just unbelievable.
What a rain.
It is. But as I said, it's happened before. So it is what it is. Well, Johnny, you've often been heard to say,
You just couldn't make this stuff up.
you couldn't make this stuff up. I better have a prayer, eh? Lord Father in heaven, we thank you so much for the opportunity to come together and discuss the various issues we've spoken of tonight. And we ask you, Lord, to make sure that the truth will abide in all of us and that we'll have the results that are desperately required so that people can get on with their lives. Father, so many people are broken and burnt by all of this, and the vaccine injured, the people suffering from infected bloods, the medical interventions which have been poorly handled, and sadly, a lot of very thorough medical professionals whose reputations have been destroyed because of the way health bureaucrats and big pharmaceutical companies have run the business into the ground. So, Lord, we just pray for your intervention in a timely fashion. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen. 2 weeks before I head to the States and go over and I might pop into Mar-a-Lago and say good day to Trumpy.
Have a game of golf. Woody.
No, mate, that's not my go. But it's all very interesting over there, isn't it?
Yeah, some interesting stuff happening. Yeah, I hope it resonates down here.
Well, I hope it rattles a few cages down here. But as I said, I'm the jury's out for me one way or the other, and that's probably how it should be. We should keep an open mind on all these things.
Well, he can't be too bad at Blake Trump. I mean, he's just tweeted that Malcolm Turnbull was a dope.
Well, that's true. I think a lot of people in Australia would agree with him.
Hmm.
I thought Malcolm Turnbull would be good for the country, but it turned out he wasn't. So what do I know? Anyway, stay out of the trees, everybody, and don't forget this is a great country because you live in it, and we love you, and we look forward to bringing some great interviews to you, and keep sharing them because it works when you share. God bless you all, and bye for now.